Breaking news from Washington has sent a wave of concern through U.S. political circles and across the American aerospace industry. Reports indicate that Donald Trump is deeply frustrated after Canada secured a major industrial win inside the United States itself. What began as a quiet commercial development has now turned into a moment that is shaking confidence in America's manufacturing future. In a move few had expected, Canadian aerospace companies have managed to outbid and outmaneuver U.S. rivals to secure a series of large contracts with Boeing. These are not small agreements or temporary deals. They involve long-term work that will shape where planes are built, serviced, and maintained for years to come. The ripple effects are already being felt from Seattle to Wichita, as concerns grow about job losses and production shifts. This outcome did not happen suddenly. It is the result of a long and careful strategy pursued by Canada over time. While political attention in Washington focused on tariffs and tough talk, Canadian firms quietly strengthened partnerships, invested in skills, and positioned themselves as reliable alternatives inside North America. For months, Donald Trump had assured American voters that his hardline trade policies would protect U.S. manufacturing. At rallies across the country, he promised that tariffs would stop foreign competition and bring jobs back home. Canada, he said, would no longer be able to benefit at the expense of American workers. In 2024, the White House followed through by placing heavy tariffs on imported aircraft components. These measures were presented as a shield for Boeing and for aerospace workers in states like Washington, Missouri, and South Carolina. The message was clear: American jobs would be defended at all costs. But those same tariff walls had consequences that were not fully anticipated. Instead of strengthening domestic supply chains, they made production more complex and more expensive. International partners began looking for ways to avoid rising costs and delays. Quietly, options outside the United States became more attractive. That reality became clear with today's announcement from Ottawa. Canadian aerospace firms, backed by public investment and global partnerships, have signed multiple supply and service contracts with Boeing. Agreements that were once assumed to belong exclusively to U.S. factories are now shifting north. These contracts involve critical work such as aircraft fuselage assembly, avionics systems, and large-scale maintenance programs worth billions of dollars. According to sources familiar with the deals, much of this work will take place in Quebec and Ontario, not in Seattle or St. Louis. For Boeing, the decision is largely practical. By moving parts of its production and service operations to Canada, the company can avoid tariff costs while expanding capacity in a stable and nearby market. From a business perspective, it is a calculated move to protect margins and maintain flexibility. In Washington, however, the optics are far more troubling. A symbol of American industrial strength is now shifting key operations beyond U.S. borders. The political impact was immediate. Within minutes of the news breaking, Donald Trump posted an angry response on social media, accusing Canada of betraying American workers and warning that retaliation would follow. Analysts say this reaction reflects more than frustration. It marks a turning point in the regional aerospace balance. As high-value contracts move into Canadian hands, the United States risks losing part of an industry it has long dominated. The timing could hardly be worse for Trump. With the 2025 election campaign entering a critical stage, his central promise to protect jobs is now under direct scrutiny. Just days earlier, he had told supporters that no foreign country could take America's future. Now, headlines across major newspapers tell a very different story. In Canada, the response has been swift and confident. The Prime Minister praised the Boeing agreements as a historic step for the country's aerospace sector. Standing alongside engineers in Montreal, he said the deal proves Canada can compete and win globally. Those images spread quickly online, drawing praise at home and anger in the United States. For American workers in regions already hit by factory closures, the news has stirred deep anxiety. Labor unions reacted strongly. Leaders warned that thousands of jobs could eventually move north if long-term contracts continue to favor Canadian facilities. They argued that workers should not pay the price for policy choices made in Washington. Economists have echoed those concerns. Many say the tariffs meant to protect domestic jobs have instead pushed companies like Boeing to seek stability elsewhere. Canada, with predictable policies and skilled labor, has emerged as a natural alternative. Democrats wasted no time attacking Trump's approach, calling it an isolationist strategy that weakens American competitiveness. Even within the Republican Party, doubts are growing. Some lawmakers worry that the Boeing shift could hurt Trump's support in key swing states such as Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, where aerospace and manufacturing jobs remain vital. Meanwhile, global competitors are watching closely. European and Asian aerospace firms see opportunity in the uncertainty now surrounding U.S. production. If Boeing can move work to Canada, others may follow different paths entirely. For American workers, the fear is simple and clear. If this can happen to Boeing, what company will be next? This situation is quickly becoming more than a trade dispute. It is shaping into a political and economic confrontation that could redefine North America's industrial future. For Donald Trump, it strikes at the heart of his personal brand. Made in America was more than a slogan. It was the foundation of his appeal. Now, one of the most iconic American manufacturers appears to be moving parts of its future elsewhere. At the same time, Trump increases pressure on China and Europe. Canada, long seen as America's closest ally, is benefiting most. Analysts say this development directly challenges the idea that tariffs alone can shield domestic industries. As factories close and investment shifts, voters are beginning to question whether the promise still holds. In Ottawa, officials see this moment differently. They view Boeing's decision as proof that Canada can compete head-to-head with the United States in advanced manufacturing. Billions of dollars in work will now support jobs, research, and innovation in Montreal and Toronto. Canadian universities and research centers are also preparing for new partnerships and funding tied to aerospace development. An influx of skilled talent is expected, strengthening the country's long-term position. Critics say this outcome highlights the failure of punitive trade policies. Supporters of Trump argue it is too soon to judge and insist production could return if conditions change. But what cannot be ignored is the symbolic impact. Canada is celebrating progress. The United States is unsettled. Behind the scenes in Washington, advisors are urging caution. Some have recommended easing tariffs or offering new incentives to keep companies from leaving. Trump, however, continues to argue that short-term pain will lead to long-term gain. Not everyone is convinced. With every factory shift, political pressure increases. Opponents now portray Trump as the leader who allowed jobs to move abroad. In manufacturing states where communities depend on these industries, the concern is growing. For many families, Boeing's move brings back memories of past industrial decline. The central question now is whether the trade war meant to protect American workers is beginning to work against them. As the immediate shock fades, one fact remains clear. Boeing's decision marks a pivotal moment in North American trade. For Canada, it is a chance to prove long-term credibility. For the United States, it is a warning that rigid policies can have unintended costs. And for Donald Trump, it may be the most serious political test of his 2025 campaign. What began as a tariff dispute has evolved into a battle over trust, leadership, and economic direction. As the world watches, Canada moves forward with confidence, while Americans debate whether the America First promise still delivers. If you found this report valuable, please like the video, subscribe to Maple States, and share it with others who want clear, fact-based reporting on North America's shifting economic landscape. Thank you for watching, and stay with Maple States for further updates.